Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to talk to you guys about something that I think we all can agree definitely stood out in the last Boruto manga chapter, which is that Boruto's warning the code might wind up being a major Chekhov's gun that goes off in the future, which for those of you guys who are new to the channel and are unfamiliar with me using that term, it simply means that when you introduce something into a story, like say a gun set on a nightstand, by the end of the story, that gun needs to have been shot at least once or else it served no purpose. I think we're in very murky waters right now that Boruto has given that ominous warning, and I'll explain to you why and how it actually connects back to some elements of what we got introduced to in the Naruto manga. So as we all know, in the most recent manga chapter, we had Boruto making it a point to tell Code that he's made a dire mistake by unleashing those 10-tailed soldiers and is repeatedly telling him that he needs to destroy them as soon as possible, going so far as to literally tell Code to destroy them while he has the chance to do so, and Boruto's freaked out enough that he says it's the worst possible outcome. Now, on the face value, you might think that Boruto is merely talking about the end result of Code feeding either Boruto or Kawaki to the 10-tails and harvesting the chakra fruit, which would result in life on the planet eventually dying, but I think the narrative is strongly implying that Boruto is getting something different because the circumstances are different. There's clearly a plot twist being set up to subvert our expectations as readers, and it's just so happening to center around the character of Code, who Amato and Kawaki and Ada at various points called an idiot who knows nothing or someone who wasn't the smartest person in the world. Boruto clearly said that Code had changed the 10-tails by giving it chakra, and while the easiest connection we can make is Hagoromo's creation of all things jutsu, which made the 9 Biju, I want to go back into the last few volumes of Naruto's manga to look at information that might wind up playing a much bigger role in the story than we thought. Back in 2014, when Naruto's manga was releasing its last few manga chapters, all of those Suzuki clan lore we were getting dumped on at the time threw a lot of fans off, especially when we shifted away from Madara to Kaguya, who was literally only around for a few weeks before she got written out of the story. There were, unbeknownst to fans at the time, seeds that are being planted that we would see blossom in the years later after Boruto became a thing. In volume 71, Zetsu tells us that the 10-tails true being was made up of not just the sacred tree, but also the body of Kaguya Otsutsuki herself. Ever since we got that line of the 10-tails not just being the god tree, but also Kaguya, we've learned that the 10-tails is a seedling that is planted into the ground after it consumes another Otsutsuki. But one of the biggest questions we've never had answered is, where did those 10-tails come from? And Zetsu's line immediately came back into my mind when Boruto was speaking of Code having made a mistake, because with the plot twist that we've seen with those Otsutsuki lore, the idea of a clan that does not understand the emotion of love having some practice set in place to sacrifice another Otsutsuki, whether it be a literal Otsutsuki or say a vessel like Boruto or Kawaki, who weren't born of the clan but they themselves are Otsutsuki genetically because of the karma seal. The idea of one of them being sacrificed to create a new 10-tails is something that has crossed my mind now, and a big part of the reason why is when you go back to the Boro fight, when Boro had confirmation that Boruto had a karma seal, he began to follow Jigen's orders to have Boruto taken as well. Jigen technically only needed Kawaki because Jigen was going to feed himself to the 10-tails and Ishiki was going to be reborn inside of Kawaki's body. There was no need for a third karma seal unless there was something else needed. So when Amato spoke to Naruto and Sasuke about the karma seal, he said part of giving someone the karma was to make sure that they picked the right person, they picked the right vessel. But we also learned that Otsutsuki having multiple karma seals is not unprecedented, and that the clan has a fail-safe set in place to prevent there being multiple versions of an Otsutsuki walking around, because say two people with Momoshiki's karma seal hit extraction around the same time, say one hits extraction at 100% a week after the other, as we saw with Ishiki, despite Jigen and Kawaki having Ishiki's karma, he couldn't choose which body he would reincarnate into, because if he could, would have chosen Kawaki, but due to Jigen being an imperfect vessel and Jigen already having extracted karma seal first, Ishiki had to revive into Jigen. Amato makes it clear when you look at everything he said in the manga. The vessel who hits 100% extraction first is used for the Otsutsuki's revival, and the other vessel that loses their karma, in this case it was Kawaki, their body still remains Otsutsuki on a genetic level. There has to be a reason for that, and I think that this might be it. The Otsutsuki clan law is one of a transference of power by any means necessary between members of the clan. clan, to the point that the lower ranked Otsutsuki like Kaguya are used to be fed to the Ten Tails, and others like Kinshiki are sacrificed to provide a power-up for the upper rank Otsutsuki. However, what about these other instances where you have other vessels who had a karma seal? Do we really think a race of aliens such as the Otsutsuki clan would willingly let them go live their lives without actually following up and using some of the purpose for them? I doubt that very much. Could this be how the Otsutsuki create the Ten Tails in the first place? Taking people who are Otsutsuki genetically from having the karma seal but weren't used for the purposes of resurrection and have them be used as a sacrifice to create another Ten Tails seedling. We've seen before that this clan has the ability to literally restructure living beings. Kinshiki was made into a fruit by Momoshiki, and Hagoromo literally took Ten Tails chakra and broke it up and formed it and made the 9 Biju, giving them a physical form and breathing life into them to a point where they have their own personalities and desires. We don't have anything that tells us that once a Ten Tails is used to harvest a chakra fruit, it just transforms back into an original Ten Tails seedling. That's never been stated. We've actually seen the opposite when you look at the Boruto novels that Ukyo Kodachi, the former writer of Boruto, wrote. Momoshiki harvested a chakra fruit on a planet before he came to Earth. A few chakra fruits actually, but the trees remained in place even after the chakra fruit was harvested. And when the anime adapted the scene where you see Momoshiki eating chakra fruits when Kinshiki pulls up, you see that there are god trees off in the distance. Momoshiki never pulled up with the Ten Tails on Earth, despite eventually planning to harvest a chakra fruit. Boruto having access to Momoshiki's karma seal means that he not only, if he's mastered it, has access to Momoshiki's Shinjutsu, which lets him see parts of the future, but he also gains Momoshiki's knowledge, and Momoshiki is someone who would take one look at those claw grimes and be able to spot the difference because he's literally harvested more worlds than he can count on his fingers. And as we saw towards the end of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, the consciousness of Boruto and Momoshiki, they're overlapping. Their thoughts are beginning to share. Boruto clearly knows that there's a change with these Ten Tails, to a point he blames Code for it, and that's where the comparison to Code creating the Ten Tails soldiers and Hagoromo making the 9 Biju comes into play. The Biju had their own emotions and their own souls. They felt anger, they felt fear, and Boruto's implying that these Ten Tails soldiers are feeling some form of fear. They're no longer brainless monsters, which means that they're evolving, and evolution could lead to a bigger issue down the line. It's almost like that classic question that has existed since the beginning of mankind itself, which is, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, put it into the Naruto world. Which came first, the Ten Tails or the Otsutsuki who was used to feed the Ten Tails to harvest a chakra fruit? And the question also has to be asked, why was Kaguya able to merge with the god tree? The claw grimes having their self-consciousness come out onto the surface, communicating to the point, it's telling Kawaki, your Otsutsuki, it shows that it's not brainless and should not be considered a brainless being anymore. If Otsutsuki can use chakra to change the structure of an Otsutsuki into a chakra fruit, the idea that they can forcibly turn a non-clan member with Otsutsuki genetics into a Ten Tails under the right circumstances also means that if someone messes with the chakra, in particular the yin side of their chakra, which has spiritual chakra, it might slowly reawaken the consciousness of whatever person, whether it be an unused vessel with Otsutsuki genetics or another clan member who was a lower ranked member than the ones that got fed to the Ten Tails, and so that third lowest rank would be forced to transform into a Ten Tails, so it could actually eat the other Otsutsuki, who in turn would be used to make the chakra fruit that the higher rank Otsutsuki ends up eating. I think we have to consider, if for no other reason than Boruto's warning and Zetsu's wording that the god tree was one thing and Kaguya was merged into it herself. That being said, I'm so curious to know what you guys think about this. While you think that over, click here to watch these other Naruto Explained videos.